Hey, I'll let you know a secret here. You know why I make videos by myself instead of with other people? Well, when you have other people with you, it kind of gives you a way to hide yourself because you're in a group of people. But when you're by yourself, the reason why I make videos by myself, talking to this phone on a tripod, is because it's a little bit harder. And I like to make myself suffer like that to work on my social anxiety issues. So I force myself to make videos by myself because it hurts a lot more. It's hard, man. It's not easy. That's not easy. Of course, later I'll get a better camera and I'll better quality camera, and maybe I can afford people to hang out with me and make videos. But this shit's hard to make videos by yourself, especially with a lot of people. I'm in Taipei, Taiwan. Taiwan is a special country for me. Taiwan is the first time I ever went to another culture. First time I learned a foreign language, and it really rocked my world. It beat the shit out of me, and it should, because that's the good thing about traveling, is it really beats you up and you'll never be the same again. Actually, a little physiological thing here I'll tell you is, for the first 3 days when I arrived in Taiwan when I was 20 years old, I physically felt dazed. I wouldn't call it like being drunk. I would call it like, say you hadn't slept for 24 hours. And you know how you're kind of there, but you're not there? That's how I felt when I first got to Taiwan. I physically felt like, is this real? Like it's like people, but they don't look like the people back home. And so I was physically, mentally in a daze for about 3 days, and then I came out of it and I realized, oh, okay, this is just another place. Let's get to it. Let's talk about money. Let's talk about retirement, an issue, a situation that I'm in right now. And let's talk a little bit more about travel. Money, my situation right now is that I have cash of $100,000 just sitting there. But if you have $100,000 in the bank, it's going to make you $5 a month in interest. That's not going to work. You can't save your way to retirement. Even if you saved $1 million and you were getting 10% a year, that's not going to work. You can't live off of that. Even if you had $1 million and you were drawing down on it, you are using about 20 years, $1 million, that's going to be $50,000 a year. After 20 years, you're out of money. So saving your money, it's not going to work. You've got to find some way to replace your income with income producing assets such as houses or multifamily partnerships, or do something with the money where it's producing more money. You can't just live off of savings. I mean, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to know that. I'll tell you right now, looking at the bank, I see the money just slowly drawing down. Me, the situation is different. I'm doing it on purpose for a strategic reason. I do have rental houses in Texas, single family houses, but I've switched away from that. After my first house, I stopped investing in single family houses, and I switched over to multifamily partnerships, where I was just using my money to partner with other people and purchase 100, 200, 300 unit apartment complexes. Some of the benefits of doing that are you don't need to have a steady work history. If you're going to purchase single family houses, you need to have 2 years of tax returns showing that you're safe, you're steady. The bank will be happy to lend you money to buy a house. You don't need to have a credit score. If you're partnering with other people, you don't need to have a good credit score because you're just using cash. And if you have cash, that's enough. So the reason why I went away from single family houses to multifamily partnerships is that I couldn't perform as well as my partners. My house was appreciating at 4% a year. I was making $400 a month on a $30,000 investment. What is that? 15%? Is that? I should know this off the top of my head. I'm going to say 15%. Let's see, $400 a month divided by $30,000 down. $400 a month times 12 months. I'm making $4,800 a year, divided by $30,000 investment, down payment, that's 16% a year. So my house is making 16% a year return on investment. I'm taking $400 per month cash in my pocket for one house. Buy as many houses as you want if you want to make more money. But apartment complexes just pass me. So I'm like, well, I know how to save money. So here apartment investors, I'll just work with you and here, take my money. I do want to get more hands-on, but just something to consider. If you don't have those 2 years of steady income, when you retire, when you go off that cliff of quitting your job, your lending situation is going to change. It's going to be harder for you to borrow money. So before you quit your job, before you retire, even if you're on a pension, you want to make sure you're going to be able to continue to purchase more and more rental properties. Or before you quit your job and retire, purchase a couple of properties and get your income up from those rental properties, so that when you go off the cliff and you quit your job, you can keep borrowing money easily. Just stop sometimes and sit down and go through the situation. Get paper out and say, situation A, I'm going to retire in 10 years. My income's going to go down to this with my pension. Call the bank, say, hey, this is going to be my situation in 5 years when I retire. I'm going to have this much income. Am I going to be able to borrow money to purchase more rental properties? Sit down, write the shit out. You don't want to just retire and be like, oh, I didn't know. Come on, man, you're a grown-up. I'm a kid. I'm 38 years old. You're 65 years old. Do your homework. Let's get into travel. Travel will beat the shit out of you because you have to define yourself. And I think life is constantly defining yourself and defending yourself. The definition of who I am is constantly changing. It changes all the time. But I have to defend myself a lot more than my definition of who I am changes. My definition as I go through the different countries, I've been traveling for 7 months now, my definition of who I am slowly changes. What do I mean by that? The way I think, the way I act, the way I eat, the way I sleep, it changes because you meet different cultures and you're like, I kind of like the way the Vietnamese do this. I kind of like the way the French do that. Your definition of who you are will change. And now when I go to the new place, I defend myself when I say, this is how I am, this is why I'm this way. Because of my past experiences, past cultures I've been exposed to, this is the new way I want to be. You better be able to define yourself and defend yourself very well, be articulate. There was a salesperson and he was talking about how if I know your problems better than you, if I understand your life better than you, what you're going through, what you want, what you don't want, I've got you. Because then I can sell my product to you. Because I know you better than yourself. And the same goes for us, right? As I travel and I experience different things, I can define myself better and better. I'm reading the pages of life. Life is like a book. And as I travel, I'm going through the pages, I'm reading life. Also, I'm reading books. I'm taking down notes. I'm being introspective. I'm asking myself, who am I? Where am I coming from? Where I'm going? Don't let this bus driver, don't let this guy who travels around living out of a bag be able to define himself better than you. When I meet you, if you can define yourself and defend it very well, thank you. I think I might change the way I am because you've taught me something new. If I meet you and you can't define yourself, you can't be articulate because you don't read, you don't write, you don't have good explanations for the way you are that you are, I'm probably not going to listen to you because you haven't defined yourself clearly. You can't defend yourself. So I think life is a lot about defining ourselves and defending ourselves, and traveling forces us to constantly be defining ourselves and defending ourselves, and especially be articulate about it. I've taught English before to people from other countries, and I have to explain to them that English is just an ability, a skill, just like your own language is. And I can get better at English. Even though I'm fluent in English, it's my mother language, it's gray. Language is not black and white. And as I continue to read and write, read books, practical books, about non-fiction books, I get better at explaining myself and understanding myself. Yes, you can read books, but sometimes you get away from the fiction books. Sometimes you need to read practical books, psychology books, anthropology books, biology books, economic books, because you need to be able to define yourself. So, and be articulate about it. I think people read too much fluffy stuff, fun stuff, and you meet them and it's kind of like, I read a romance novel once, and I read this poetry once. Like, well, of course I like fiction too. I love fiction. I love, sci-fi very much. I love action adventure. It's kind of like the icing on the cake. I love to be very practical and learn rational thought, well thought out, well planned action in life. But then fiction is like the icing on the cake, and it helps me keep my imagination going, which kind of keeps me coming up with new ideas, with different ideas. Be articulate, read, be able to define yourself and defend yourself. By traveling, you realize nobody knows what the hell they're talking about. This country and culture will say that the last country and culture I came from is weird and twisted and backwards. And then, Vietnam will say China is weird and twisted and backwards. And then you're like, wait a second, nobody knows what the hell they're talking about here. So I better make sure I can define and defend myself very well. Traveling beats the shit out of you because it keeps you humble. Traveling has kept me very humble because you're always vulnerable. You're always a little bit defenseless. You're always a little bit lost. Just getting here, I didn't know exactly how to get here. And just getting home, I'm gonna need to use the map on my phone. I don't always speak the language of the country I'm in. So it teaches you to don't be so sure of yourself. Be more polite, be more open, and be more humble, because you don't know where you're at all the time. You don't know how to get where you're going all the time. That's a good thing about traveling. It also keeps me constantly grateful, because by traveling, sometimes I just wanted a spoon or a cup or some white bread so I can make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, or I just want to drink some milk, man. Because I'm always suffering, I don't get what I want. When I do get what I want, when I get back to America, I've got one up on you. Because you've been in America for the past 7 months. I've been traveling from Spain to Vietnam to Taiwan for the past 7 months. I've been beat up a little bit. And when I get something that I want, like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, I love the shit out of that sandwich. I'm like, man, this sandwich tastes so good. It's because you've had peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for 7 months. I haven't had peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. The peanut butter was wrong. The jelly was wrong. The bread was a little bit off. That's not the kind of bread I like. So when I get back to America, I hit the ground running, because I'm like, I can speak the language. You've got cups and forks and spoons and the bread I like, and the peanut butter I like, and the jelly I like. So I've got that little bit of a power, a little bit of an energy, a little bit of an edge to get things done. Traveling also keeps me efficient. It keeps me organized. It keeps me in a certain sort of a flow. You're gonna learn very quickly when you start arriving at hotels at the middle of the night. You're tired, all you wanna do is go to sleep. But because you packed your bag like whatever, the stuff you need to take a shower is buried way in the bottom of the bag. You learn, oh, I should put my sandals and my shower towel at the front of the bag and my shampoo at the front of the bag, so that when I arrive at the hotel, all I have to do is zip, get the stuff, take a shower, go to bed. It's easy. So traveling teaches you to be organized. It teaches you to be efficient, to be patient. You learn how to put things in their most efficient order. You're getting good at living. I'm like a professional liver. By traveling, eating all the different foods, seeing all the different sights, learning to be efficient, learning to be grateful, learning to be humble. You're a professional liver, professional lifer. And by being beat up a little bit, it's kind of like a guy who's lifting weights. He actually has to hurt his muscle to make his muscle grow and be stronger. He'll lift the weights, on a minuscule level, on a micro level, he'll injure the muscle fibers and tissues, and then the muscle will heal itself stronger and bigger. And so by suffering a little bit, when I go back to America, I'm just a little bit tougher than the other guy, a little bit more patient, a little bit more durable. I could go back to America and sleep in a car, sleep on a floor, eat with chopsticks, you know, just drink water, no milk, no juice, like it's nothing because of my experience traveling. I also wanted to add about defining yourself, that you're never going to be able to define yourself and completely. So I'm also humble because I know I can never define myself or define myself the perfect way. I'm never going to have all the answers, and I got that out of my mind real quick, that I'm always going to be a student. I'm always going to be a professional student, a professional liver, just always getting better at learning how to live, learning how to manage my money, how to be happy, how to be satisfied. It's just a skill and an ability like all other skills and abilities. Let's finish up here with a couple of ideas that I had to talk with other people about from other cultures. I understand when I come to another culture, you know, America has been growing up over there across the Pacific for 200 years. This country, Taiwan, has been growing for 100 years. Vietnam has been growing up for, I apologize, I think like 1,000 years. The culture, the Vietnamese culture that we know of today has been developing for about 1,000 years. The actual country of Vietnam, shoot, I forgot their, you know, how many years they've been their own country, but you have to understand the background, the history, and the culture of people before you start engaging with them, talking about anything. So I want to be a good teacher. That's why you see me study so much. Because when I meet someone from another culture, I need to be able to defend myself very well. I need to explain mortgage rates and lending in America and the differences between California and Texas, and income taxes and depreciation and deferment of taxes and stuff like that. If I want to be a good teacher, if I want to be able to define myself and defend myself, I need to have good, articulate answers for people of other cultures. And that's why when I come to another country, I'm asking about how much does property cost? How much is rent? So how does your family view this or that? And how does your family view responsibility and money? And because I'm trying to get a well-rounded definition and understanding of who I am, who they are, and why they think the way that they do. I was talking with someone about teaching. And this is very frustrating because imagine me in my situation. I'm a very frugal person. I want to get the maximum return on my life investment. And so I live frugally. I like to have fun and travel. I live out of a backpack. It's fine with me. And in my situation, one day someone will call me broke. They'll say, you look very poor. You look pathetic. You look like a poor guy. Why is anyone ever going to listen to anything you say about financial education? And then the next day, I'll have someone say, why do you make these videos? Why do you act like you're so rich and like you know everything? And I had to tell this particular person, we'll just call this person Mary. I had to tell Mary that teaching and being an expert, teaching and knowing it all are two different things. Teaching is a skill, it's an ability, it's a talent, and you can get better at that talent or be worse at that talent. And I had to explain to her what education is. You know, someone could be very good at teaching and you could tell them, could you teach people how to use this cell phone? And they could do it very well. Could you teach someone how to build a building? And they could do it very well. They could prepare the lessons, the presentation, they could make videos, they could do it very well. But in their own brain, maybe they're not so well educated in different subjects. That's understandable. And you might meet someone who's very smart and can build a building, but they're really a shit teacher. You say, hey, you built this building, could you maybe teach a class on it for an hour? And they can't teach it. They can't talk, they can't organize, they can't speak loudly and clearly. So teachers are not necessarily experts, experts are not necessarily teachers. And every once in a while, you get a good marriage between someone who knows things very well, they're an expert, and they're also a good teacher, and I love that kind of person because you get their expertise, but you also get their good teaching. I'm a beginner. I'm not a super wealthy property investor. I've got a lot of issues I need to deal with. You know, maybe I'm a little bit too conservative, a little bit too defensive with my money. Maybe I should be more hands-on, be more active. I also love teaching. I think it's fun, and I want to get better at public speaking. So I'm a marriage of the two, and that's what I bring to the world, is my love for teaching, but also my love for independence and freedom, and all of the wonderful things that I've learned about single-family investing and multifamily investing, and also being loving to travel around the world. And I want to marriage all of those and give it to you. It's my fun hobby. And then, so I had to explain to this girl, Mary, about what teaching means. It doesn't mean you have all the answers. I don't have all the answers, and I know I'll never have all the answers. I just try to do the best that I can. And then Mary had a friend. Let's call the friend Amy. So Mary's friend Amy just got married, and Amy married a guy who has money. His family has money. Not necessarily Amy's husband has money. So Mary said, Amy will be fine. Her husband's family has money. And I had to get into culture here, and I had to explain to her, well, in my culture, I derive no pride or sense of accomplishment from my parents' money. By the way, my family is middle class. We don't have a lot of money. We have a pretty mediocre financial education. But I had to explain to her that even if my family had a lot of money, me as a man in America, I cannot go to a girl and say, hey girl, hey American girl, my parents have money, so what do you think? It won't work in my culture. I'll be laughed at. Because in my culture, and this is the definition I'm going to go with, of confidence, of ability, of what a man should look like. I'm going to say that a man should be able to competently manage his own money and produce his own money separate from his family. There's nothing that really entitles me to my family's money. My parents could be dead tomorrow and I'll get nothing. I'll have to deal with their car and deal with the bills that weren't paid and call the credit card companies and deal with their mortgage and find out any hidden bills that I didn't know about and close all those up, sell off the assets maybe, and I might get nothing. I have to accept that. So me as a man dealing with money and confidence and ability, I need to be able to make and manage money on my own. And so I told Mary that it wouldn't be good for a man to marry Amy because Amy is a little bit of a risk. You know, men are like the CEO and women are like the CFO of the family, or the COO, or the manager, however you want to think of it. And if a man were to marry Amy and the man were to die, Amy's going to run the family finances into the ground. The children are going to be at risk. Now, I'm not beating up on women here. I actually wish that women would be more active in the financial education scene. I wish I had more women property investors. It's actually very hard to find women property investors who are writing and making videos. A lot of my mentors are men. They're politically incorrect. They're very controversial. They're very forceful and confrontational when it comes to education. And me personally, my personality, I like that. It's hard to find women who are, this is what you need to do. This is what you got to do. So it's very hard for me to find women who are financial education teachers in the way that I like and are writing and making videos. Point here is kind of a women and money and what is a man and what is a confident man. And going back to the whole Mary and Amy story, I told Mary that in my culture, your culture might be different, I need to be able to make and manage money on my own, and my children may not get any money from me, and I want them to be able to make and manage their own money, and I may not get any money from my parents, so I need to be able to make and manage money on my own. That also goes into what is love. You know, in my culture, let's go to the next topic, which is love. In my culture, love is a little bit of tough love, pushing you out of the nest. My parents need to push me out of the nest so I can learn how to make my own money and manage my own money. I will do the same with my children. And so when you start getting to other cultures, they have a different history, different background. They don't want to push the children out of the nest. They don't think the man necessarily needs to be able to make his own money. As long as his parents have money, then that's okay. And they also think that teaching means that you're an expert in everything, which it's not. So you can see how complex it gets once you start to get into different cultures and different countries. And I'm constantly asking questions about, you know, if I want to be a good teacher and I want to have good, meaningful conversation with other people from other cultures, I have to understand their background, their idea of teaching, their idea of what it means to be a man, what it means to be responsible, what money means in their culture. I need to understand the history and the background of the economics of their country, the difficulty their country has had. It gets pretty complicated. It also helps me understand myself, to understand, oh, I'm American, this is the way we do it, this is why we've been doing it this way for the last 100, 200 years. Okay, it makes me a better teacher. So when I go around, I ask things like, you know, how much is an apartment unit? Not to rent, but to buy a condo. How much does a condo cost? How much is the rent? Oh, cost here is really high to purchase a condominium, and the rent is very low. So it's a different environment than California, than Texas, where the cost of a house is lower and the rent is higher. So I can make a little bit of profit, a little bit of passive income. Okay, so to wrap it up, we've talked a little bit about retirement. You can't live off of your savings. Also remember, when you quit your job, you're going to have your lending situation is going to change. So make sure that you're planning for your retirement adequately, and you maybe want to consider buying a couple houses before you retire, rental properties before you retire. Also, I travel to get the shit beat out of me. I travel because it makes me a stronger person. It makes me also a better teacher, because I have to learn how to define myself and defend myself better and explain myself better. I'm gonna go eat some snacks now. They got good food here. I don't know if I told you, but this is the Simon, I think it's called Simon Ding. The Simon station, exits 1 and 6 here. They have a lot of food here, snacks here. Walk around here. It's very popular tourist area here in Taipei. From Taipei, Taiwan, I'll talk to you later. Good night.